Harvard had a vision, decades and decades ago that they would create a biotech hub near the campus. If you've ever been to Cambridge, it's kind of landlocked where Harvard is. So they decided we're going to buy up some land across the river in the neighborhood of Allston, which is in the city of Boston. Very ambitious plan, certainly made a lot of sense considering, Stanford is all about real estate, biotech.
Yep.
They are the landlord to a lot of massive companies. So it took Harvard quite a long time to get where they are. They bought land, then they had the financial crisis. Their endowment lost 30% of their value. So, this plan had been in the works for a long time. Finally, they break ground on a biotech lab building in 2023, and things started unraveling somewhat. The market for biotech space in Boston, especially where they are, is vacancy rates north of 70-80%.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that lab that you mentioned, only 20% leased at this point in time. I mean, how much of this is really about just a broad downturn in biotech, and how much of this is miscalculations by Harvard itself?
Well, it's a little bit of both. And, at the time when they were very bullish on this building, remember, back in the times of COVID when the federal government investors were pouring lots and lots of money into the biotech sector. It was a hot area. Moderna's vaccine was developed right in this Cambridge area. And it's a multi-use plant. So the apartments took quite a while to get the rezoning. And as everybody knows, real estate is about timing.
So what's the Harvard plan here? Because it seems like the world may be in a different place. It looks like their finances are going to remain challenged, at least for the foreseeable future, as relates to government funding, as are many other institutions, higher learning. What's the plan here?
So there's two areas that we're talking about. The first one is called the Enterprise Research Center, where this biotech building is. Tishman Speyer, which is a developer, has the majority of the risk in leasing up the building. Harvard is not on the hook for leasing it, although they've been helping since they want, great research partners. Roche is the first tenant, and they're looking to build up their obesity drug business there. And then there's this whole other massive land area, about 90 acres, that hugs the Charles River, that Harvard had bought up, again, decades ago, envisioning this brand new neighborhood in Boston. And the Trump administration pulled several $100 million in transportation funding that would have untangled highway exits and really made it, as Harvard had envisioned, sort of like this new seaport district that would have brought in development, mixed use, a brand new neighborhood. And Boston would have been helped also by, increased tax revenue, more jobs. So that is on hold sort of indefinitely until they figure out what to do with that.
Yeah, well, it seems like maybe it's a little bit of an area-specific issue, but then I want to draw the contrast between Harvard and MIT, right? Because its development of Cambridge's Kendall Square has really flourished. It's now known as the most innovative square mile on the planet. So what did MIT do right that Harvard did wrong in this case?
First mover advantage. MIT had also seen the potential in Cambridge, right next to their campus. And they had sort of a brilliant strategy in their endowment. Instead of looking out and finding some real estate managers, they took that in-house and they said, this is going to be our real estate portfolio and we're going to develop these buildings ourselves. Now, their land costs were not the same as Harvard's because, it was very derelict land, former parking spots, and they had a huge demand, and now it's filled with drug companies. Biogen selected its new headquarters there. Google is there, and it has a huge advantage, and that is the subway stop. Whereas Allston is kind of far. It feels more like a suburban area when you're driving in there, and Kendall Square is very easily accessible by transit. So it's a real estate story. It's a transportation story.
So how about the people involved, like the locals there? Because oftentimes when you see universities and they want to expand, they kind of butt heads with the townies and versus the the gowns, the town and gown. Every town has that has a big
course.
university. How's that playing out?
Well, initially, Harvard bought up this land in a very clandestine manner. It was not known that Harvard was the purchaser of all this land. So the community in Allston had a really sour taste for quite a long time. But Harvard has proved to be a very good partner with them. And we talked about the apartments, and the rezoning took quite a long time. They have a lot of affordable units in this building, and that really protracted approval process potentially was something that cost them a lot of time. And if they had that done a lot sooner, they may have latched on to a thriving market versus a downturn market in the biotech lab space.